There's a fascinating new study by Anthropic, the makers of the Claude AI model, that calls into question whether you can trust the explanations, Jeff, that AI gives about its own thought process. How does this work?
So it's pretty wild. Anthropic was exploring getting AI chatbots to explain their reasoning step by step about how they got to an answer. And unfortunately, what they found is that AI will lie to you about stuff like that.
How do they actually know that the AI is lying? How do they determine that?
So it's totally interesting. They gave the AI subtle hints before asking them questions, and then they would ask the AI if it used those hints in getting to its answers. And the AI would frequently lie and say it didn't, even when there's occasions where it's quite obvious that it did indeed use that information to get to its answer. So it's really bizarre, but it's interesting, and I think again, be skeptical about AI stuff.
Be skeptical. And I think there's lots of red flags. Yes, AI can be used in some pretty incredible ways. But this other story, in terms of finding out how exactly people are using AI image generators, this one I think really took me by surprise.
Yeah, a security researcher basically stumbled upon an open database online belonging to an AI image generation firm that revealed the prompts that people used in it. And those prompts contain things like creating images of Ariana Grande, the Kardashians, and Beyonce de-aged to look like little children, and other disturbing sexual imagery. And thankfully, most AI tools have controls that make it so that you can't generate this kind of imagery. But I think what this shows you is what people will do with AI when you take away the guardrails, and that's not good.
It's really a perfect example of why we need AI guardrails in place when we talk about all different types of AI platforms. It's so critical to have those guardrails in place because there's always someone who's figured out how a nefarious way to use the AI platform in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this just was floating out there in the web and had all the information of what people would use for prompts and some really disturbing sexual imagery stuff and all that. So yeah, so that's enough about that. But yeah, just again, I think it's a bit of a warning sign.
It absolutely is. So we're going to go to another part of the world. I was reading this story about drones being used in the Ukraine and Russia war, and we actually have some data about how prevalent they are.
Yeah, so Ukraine has really been leading the way for in drone development recently. It's produced more than 2 million small drones for its war efforts. Now, these are typically used for surveillance and things like that, but increasingly there are obviously combat and attack drones that leverage AI and things like that going on as well.
I think we've seen a lot of the stories in the media about Ukraine using drones. Russia is also using drones. What I didn't realize is that, according to this article in Fast Company, about 70% of Russian and Ukrainian casualties are actually because of these drones. 70% of these casualties. Also, in a recent New York Times article, they talked about this military drone use. And they said it's like having 1,000 snipers in the sky. So this really is a new era of warfare that we're seeing develop right in front of our eyes.
Agreed, and kind of terrifying. And all I have to think about is those weird AI dogs, and put some machine guns on their heads and let them start making decisions about who to shoot. And yeah, things get pretty scary pretty quick. On a lighter note, at least lighter compared to, assassin robot dogs, on last week's episode, we chatted about a new social media platform called says.us. Well, this week it looks like there's another option on the horizon called Skylight. And I just signed up for this. It's a TikTok kind of experience. It's built on the same tech as Blue Sky. And in fact, you use your Blue Sky login credentials to create your account, which is super handy and easy. And it's backed by Mark Cuban. So it should hopefully have some momentum getting out of the gate.
Yeah, this should be interesting to watch. I'm a huge fan of Mark Cuban, and I know he has, especially over the past couple of years, been looking to invest in alternatives to some of the platforms we see out there. So really excited to see something out there for people who maybe, aren't that keen on using TikTok.
And somebody with the heft behind them that they can actually attract the sort of critical mass of people that you need to make these platforms work, because this This is not a technological hurdle anymore. It's about getting people to use the platforms.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of TikTok, we do just want to mention people have, of course, heard the news over the past couple of months about TikTok's American ownership. They are still looking for new owners. But what's also new is that President Trump had just announced that he is signing another executive order to actually give TikTok a little bit more time. Now, according to Euronews, there was a deal in the works. So there were some American investors who were going to buy part of TikTok. The original owners from China would still have a minority stake. But as soon as the tariffs were introduced by President Trump, Beijing actually stopped that deal entirely that was on the table and really kind of put that on pause.
Yeah, those tariffs are affecting everything. There's a funny story online about when they were trying to read the list of countries or different jurisdictions around the world that tariffs would be used on, or what the tariffs would be set for each of them. But it included things that were like subnational territories and things like that. So we don't deal in trade. It included an island populated only by penguins, who I'm pretty sure haven't been screwing the U.S. out of much. But it's a pretty crazy story, and people hypothesize that that was basically AI gave them that list instead of a human being going and saying, obviously, what we're really looking for is UN countries and stuff like that. So tariffs are affecting absolutely everything, even video games. Nintendo has pulled their Switch 2 pre-orders from the United States over Trump's tariffs. According to BBC, Trump says that his global tariffs will boost the U.S. economy and protect jobs, which I think we're already seeing. It's not going to do that. But Japan's prime minister called them a national crisis, and I think that is more truthful than anything Trump said about it.
And if we drill down a little bit further in terms of the effects of the tariffs on the tech community and the tech industry, in my newsletter this week, I shared an article from Quartz where a tech analyst said that these tariffs from Trump will actually set the tech industry back a full decade or more. Now, speaking of tariffs, Jeff, you're going to talk about cars next. So let's dive into that in the Other Mac.